I feel like something burning, don't you?
Smell like something.
Yeah. The heat's not on.
Oh,
It's not hot outside. I mean, it's not cold outside.
it really is cold outside. It's not.
Yesterday was like 80 degrees in Walnut Creek. 80. Let's do it. Oh. Yeah, let's do it. What we try to do every day, Pinky. Try and take over the world. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Again, my name is Diallo, and we're here doing current events on this lovely Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. And January 19th of 2021. Does anybody know what the big event is that's happening tomorrow at the White House?
Inauguration.
What?
What do you call it? Inauguration.
Inauguration, exactly.
Right, and Kamala Harris.
Yep, that's going on tomorrow in Washington, D.C., where they got Joe Biden's going to be sworn in as the 46th president of the United States of America. How about that?
Yeah.
President number 46.
That's incredible.
I know. Nothing good lasts forever, but we're certainly going to let it try, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he just compare on to Will Gibson.
So again, I'm reading from the East Bay Times and the local news. So we will start with the weather. We're gonna start with the weather because the weather the past few days has been weird, hasn't it? It's supposed to be middle of winter time, but over the weekend in certain places like in Walnut Creek, it was 80 degrees yesterday. But the wind was blowing at like 30 miles an hour. And then last night, you had the wind gusting at Mount Diablo. It got up to 90 miles an hour last night. Those are hurricane force winds. Blew down trees, they'll uproot trees. A lot of damage that happened. So we're going to read about the weather. Powerful wind gusts have PG&E advising that a power shutdown is likely. The temperature crept into record territory in the Bay Area for a second straight day Monday, even as the focus by forecasters turned to powerful winds that threatened to leave some Californians in the dark. We have nothing official because we still have time left in the day, but there already have been temperatures that have gone above what we've seen before on January 18th. National Weather Service meteorologist Gary Diaz said Monday afternoon. By 1 p.m., downtown San Francisco had reached 72 degrees and Oakland had reached 76, both high marks for their cities. Oakland's record came on a day when temperatures there were forecast to be in the upper 60s for much of Alameda County and in the 70s inland. On Sunday, San Jose reached 78 degrees, breaking the date's 101-year-old mark for highest temperature by 2 degrees. A record also fell in Livermore, 76 degrees, breaking its 1986 mark of 70. And Oakland tied its mark for the day with a high of 74 degrees. The warm temperatures are likely to dip significantly by tonight into Wednesday, meteorologist Matt Mayhol says, as cooler breezes pick up and a storm system moves toward California. That system is expected to bring showers for much of the region, and snow could mix in with it some of the upper elevations, Mayhay said. Sustained winds were blowing between 15 and 20 miles an hour throughout much of the region by 1 p.m. Where's page 3? So winds were up to 15 to 20 miles an hour Monday. We're expected to get even stronger above 1,000 feet. Peaks were expected to see wind gusts of at least 50 miles per hour. Ooh,
Wow.
man.
Quite a bit.
Winds were especially powerful overnight in the East Bay, with the Weather Service measuring gusts of up to 82 miles an hour atop Mount Diablo. The winds were moving downslope of the mountain. That causes the warm areas below them. Oh man, that's got to be a little yawns fit there. Man, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. Oh, here's a stupid story that happened this weekend. Motorcyclists killed on Bay Bridge amid wrong way swarm. So there was a bunch of traffic on the bridge the other night because all these motorcycles and stuff were going the wrong way and stopped traffic. I didn't know somebody died though. Let's find out who and how stupid he was. A 20-year-old man was killed in a crash Sunday on the Bay Bridge. Start over again. A 20-year-old man was killed in a crash Sunday on the Bay Bridge after a crowd of motorcyclists drove the wrong way on the span in an apparent attempt to elude officers, the California Highway Patrol said. The accident followed reports Sunday afternoon that several hundred motorcyclists were running amok on the bridge and in San Francisco. CHP San Francisco Public Information Officer Mark Andrews said. The crash was reported just after 5 p.m., authorities said, as a large group of motorcyclists swarmed over the bridge, splitting lanes of traffic. A group of about 15 split off and entered the Bay Bridge heading east, which is the wrong way. When they saw CHP patrols set up to deter stunts and other sideshow activity, they turned around, going the wrong direction westbound on the lower deck, which has eastbound lanes. Once the group reached San Francisco, they exited at the Sterling Street and 4th Street ramps, traversed city streets, and re-entered the bridge the wrong way on Fremont Street ramp, heading east on the upper deck. A CHP attempt to divert the group onto the Treasure Island ramp was unsuccessful, and the motorcyclists reached the new eastern span of the Bay Bridge. One cyclist crashed his dirt bike near the incline section, the CHP said. That driver fled on foot, though he was picked up as a passenger. He was picked up as a passenger on another bike. As the bike took off into the wrong direction of traffic, the driver went over a median wall near Treasure Island exit, crashing and throwing the passenger into the bridge lane, where he was struck and killed. Well, that's dumb. Jeez. The dirt bike's driver, who was injured when he hit the median, was arrested, Andrew said. The passenger was pronounced dead at the scene. His identity and city of residence were not released. So that must have been an ugly sight. He got thrown off the motorcycle, probably going about 50 miles an hour, and then hit the wall. And hit a wall.
And he killed you.
Oh, instantly. Oh, yeah. There was probably blood and guts everywhere. Right, was not a pretty scene. His brain was probably all leaking out. Motorcycle crashes are not pretty.
Young people.
So a house fire in Walnut Creek sends firefighters to the hospital. A firefighter suffered a minor injury while hoping to put out a house fire on Monday morning, fire officials said. An ambulance took the firefighter to the hospital for treatment as crews were bringing the single alarm blaze under control, spokeswoman Captain Tracy Dutter said. He had minor burn and a cut on his hand, she said. Crews were called to the home on Harmony Lane around 11:20 a.m. and had the fire under control by 11:45. The home did sustain damage. According to Dutter, nobody else was injured. Mm-hmm. It's very good. Very, very good. Mm-hmm. Let's see what else we got. let's see what else we got. We got comics. Let's read the advice columns. My favorite. Let's not read that just yet. Let's not read it just yet. Let's see what else we got in the news here. This one's called Inaugural Preparation. Biden-Harris transition team takes break and honors Martin Luther King Day. 2 days from the inauguration, President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris pitched in on a Martin Luther King Jr. Day service project as a militarized and jittery Washington prepared for swearing in that will play out under extraordinary circumstances and security. Biden and his wife Jill joined an assembly line in the parking lot of Phila Ambulance, an organization that distributes food to people in need, and helped fill about 150 boxes with fresh fruit and non-perishables. As Biden and Harris took breaks from their inaugural preparation to honor the civil rights hero on Monday, outgoing President Donald Trump remained out of public view at the White House for the 6th straight day. In the past years, Trump has marked the holiday with unannounced visits to the King Memorial in Washington, but no such outings were expected this year. Such a visit would have been complicated because Washington has become a fortress city of roadblocks and barriers before Wednesday's inauguration, as security officials work to avoid more violence following the June 6th riot by a pro-Trump mob at the U.S. Capitol. In a measure of how nervous and the city has become, U.S. Capitol Police on Monday briefly locked down the Capitol complex and paused inaugural rehearsals after fire broke out at a nearby homeless encampment. Biden's transition officials, including incoming Homeland Security Secretary Advisor Liz Sherwood Randall and the Deputy Attorney General nominee Lisa Monaco, held a video conference with acting heads and career staff from national security agencies to discuss the security situation around the inauguration day. So what do you think about that? They got 25,000 National Guard troops stationed around Washington, D.C. to protect the inauguration from crazy people. Woo. Man. Mm-hmm. All right, next one. $40 million gift to fund 50 NAACP lawyers. From Atlanta, the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund launched a $40 million scholarship program on Monday to support a new generation of civil rights lawyers dedicated to pursuing racial justice across the South. With that whopping gift from a single anonymous donor, the fund plans to put 50 students through law school around the country. In return, they must commit to 8 years of racial justice work in the South, starting with a 2-year postgraduate fellowship in a civil rights organization. The donor came to us, said Sherilyn Eiffel, president of the Legal Defense and Education Fund. The donor very much wanted to support the development of civil rights lawyers in the South, and we have a little bit of experience with that. Indeed, the LDF has been backing civil rights lawyers ever since its founding by Thurgood Marshall in 1940, during an era when Black people rarely had effective legal representation and Black students were turned away from Southern universities. It funded the creation of Black and interracial law firms in several Southern states in the 1960s and 70s, and has built a network of lawyers since then. Reflecting the urgency of these times, the fund has set an application deadline of February 16th, giving this fall's incoming first-year law students less than a month to make their cases for the opportunity. While without question we are in a perilous moment in this country, we are also in a moment of tremendous possibility, particularly in the South. Eiffel said, "The elements for change are very much present in the South. What needs to be strengthened is the capacity of lawyering." The LDF chose Martin Luther King Jr. Day to announce the Marshall Motley Scholarship Program, named for the Supreme Court Justice and for Constance Baker Motley, who was an LDF attorney just a few years out of Columbia University Law School when she wrote the initial complaint that led to the court's Brown versus Board of Education ruling outlawing racial segregation in public schools. She later became the first Black woman federal judge. Pretty cool, huh? Mhm. Somebody that's giving away $40 million like that for the good of society. That's good.
Yeah.
More of that should happen. All right. Now we're going to look at our advice column. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Our advice column. Jinx. All right. So we're going to look at our advice column now. We have Dear Abby and we have Ask Amy. So first we're going to start with the advice from Dear Abby. The title is Dad Objects to Sharing His Role. So what could that mean?
Oh,
Well, you have a dad. What's the dad's role in a family?
take care of that.
Take care of the family. So dad objects to sharing his role. So let's see. Yesterday, my daughter informed me that her boyfriend will soon come to me to ask her in hand in marriage. She also told me she intends to have both her stepfather and me walk her down the aisle. This creates a huge problem for me. Her mother and I divorced 13 years ago because of marital infidelity on her part. He mentioned to say her part. Not just marriage infidelity. No, make sure it was her fault. She cheated on me. She was having an affair with the man who is now my daughter's stepfather. Ooh.
Oh,
When my
wow.
daughter told me her plans, it took all of my control not to go through the roof. I have thought about my daughter's wedding day since the day she was born, and now she wants me to share it with this individual who has caused so much pain in my life.
Hmm.
Her feeling is he has been with her entire life, and she wants him in the wedding. I understand it to some extent, although for her to ask him to give up even a bit of this honor cuts me to the core. One of her reasons for asking is we had a strained relationship for a number of years. I was never out of her life, although there were periods of time when we would fight constantly. I don't want to miss the opportunity to walk my baby girl down the aisle, but I simply cannot share this honor with someone who basically stole my family.
I bet.
Wow.
That's it. Yeah, that's
You got your wife cheated on you, and she's been married to the guy you cheated on for 12 years. And now it's a stepdad of your daughter. You hate the guy with the guts because he cheated on your wife. Oh,
Sure.
man, that's a. Let's see what Abby has to say. Dear not forgiving, I know this is painful for you, but you are not in control. If you're going to have the honor of walking your daughter down the aisle, you will have to figure out a compromise. I'm suggesting you walk her halfway to the altar and your daughter's stepfather take her the rest of the way, or vice versa. It has been done before.
Wow.
So her advice is take the high road and just split it. You may not like them, but it's not your day. It's your daughter's day,
That's true.
right? When it comes down to it, it ain't about you. It's about your daughter. So that's good advice. Next one. Dear Abby, at what age is it no longer appropriate to share a bed with your child? My sister-in-law, Mara, is a single mom with a 13-year-old daughter. Until recently, we were quite close, but we haven't spoken in a few months. And mostly it's because of COVID restrictions, but we had begun drifting apart even before. Last week, I saw on Facebook that she had made a comment about still sharing a bed, about her and her daughter still sharing a bed. I think it's weird and creepy. It goes against every boundary I have as a mother myself. Should I keep my mouth shut? Getting in touch with her out of the blue to talk about this seems over the top, but I'm genuinely concerned about the long-term impact on her daughter, who has voiced in the past, not in front of Mara, that she prefers to sleep alone. Is this none of my business? Let's see, let's find out. Dear Over, if you suspect your niece is being sexually abused, Child Protective Services should be contacted. Otherwise, it is none of your business. Not every family or culture, for that matter, has the same standards. Until your niece finds the courage to tell her mother she no longer wants to share a bed, nothing will change in that household. Perfect advice.
You should.
It ain't your problem. All right. Ooh. Now we're going to our Ask Amy, which is my favorite. And today's title is called Sex Life Fizzles, Webcam Sizzles.
Wow.
Ooh, sounds juicy. Juicy, juicy, juicy. Dear Amy, I am newly married to a man. I have been in a relationship for 3 years. We have 3 children and we both work. I understand that all this can put a strain on our intimacy. I feel like he turns down my sexual advances frequently. I chalked it up to him being worn out from work, etc. Trust has never been an issue in our relationship before. However, going on instinct, I checked his phone. The search history showed that he was paying for and had subscribed to webcam videos from a woman who is very wild looking and is built nothing like me. He has admitted his problem, apologized, and swore never to do that again. But I'm having a trust issue now, and I feel insecure. I feel like he chose that over me. How can I get past this and happy again? So basically, her husband is not having sex with her, he's looking at porn. And now she feels insecure because the porn he's looking at, these girls are wild and crazy, they look nothing like her. I think a lot of women have that problem with men now.
Yeah.
A lot of women have that problem with men and porn. Porn is it's a drug. And his wife, right?
Yeah, his wife.
Make your own little porno in your room. All right, here's the answer. Here's the response. Dear Insecure. To paraphrase one of my favorite lines from poet Robert Frost, you can only get past this by going through it. And you can only do that with your husband by your side. He violated your trust by paying a woman to simulate sex for him on a webcam. You violated his trust by catching him. You seem to have discussed this episode, at least to a point, where he quickly admitted to the impact of his choice. He obviously feels guilty. But frequently, when trust is broken, couples ensue their accusations, explanations, and apologies very quickly, and then slam the book closed, hoping to just move on. It is painful for 2 people who love each other to dwell on their broken trust. Suddenly, it feels as if the image you've had of yourselves in a relationship is completely flawed. Your husband's sex habit in his virtual life might have created an exacerbated sexual dysfunction in his real life, or sexual dysfunction or anxiety in his real life might have led him down the virtual path. You two must talk about this, and you should talk about it until everything, all of your thoughts, fears, and feelings have been revealed. You should both vow to completely be honest and non-judgmental in discussing this. This would be best done with the guidance of a skilled couples counselor who could ideally urge you toward a compassionate understanding of your mutual needs and desires and teach you how to talk about them. That's good advice. Be open and talk, and don't ridicule one another when the other one says something.
That's the best way to count.
A lot of relationships, the couple will start talking to each other, and then one will start using that as a cudgel and start accusing them of doing something they didn't do. And it turns into a big argument and turns to a divorce because they don't know how to talk to each other and communicate. Next one. Dear Amy, I am thoroughly disgusted by your relentless drumbeat promoting mask wearing and now having a vaccine injected into the body in order to ward off the COVID virus. Keep your opinions to yourself. Ooh, that's a rough one. Let's see how Amy responds to that. Dear Disgusted, people read the column and write to me precisely for my opinion, which is why the column is called Ask Amy. However, regarding the pandemic, I am not stating my opinion, but that of scientists and medical researchers. My relentless drumbeat is all in the cause of health and public safety. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go over news of the weird and today in history. All right, so first, actually, we're going to do one about the animal kingdom first. This seems interesting. It's called Beetle Keeps Rivals Off Scent of Food Buried for Offspring. We're talking about beetles, like bugs. Let's see. Some beetles go to great and disgusting lengths for their children. They scout for a dead mouse or bird, dig a hole and bury it, pluck its fur feathers, roll its flesh into a ball, and cover it in goop, all to feed their future offspring. Now scientists think that goo might do more than just slow decay. It also appears to hide the scent of the decomposing bounty and boost another odor that repels competitors. That's pretty smart. It helps them to hide their resources from others, said Stephen Trumbo, who studies animal behavior at the University of Connecticut and led the new research published Thursday in the American Naturalist. They try to keep everyone away. The beetles, called burying beetles, aren't the only creatures who try to deceive their competitors or prey with subtle, sneaky tactics. Large blue butterflies, for example, will imitate certain sounds to manipulate ants. Corpse flowers produce rotting odors to attract insect pollinators that feed on decomposing matter. The importance of these interactions are being recognized more and more, said Alexandra Figueredo, a biologist at the University of Zurich, who is not involved in the new study. Burying beetles and other things that feed on dead animals, including vultures, possums, and maggots, race each other to track down carcasses. Competition is stiff. Competition is stiff even among burying beetles, which use special antennae to detect the remains from afar. Burying beetles are relatively large, about an inch long, and black with orange markings. The gut secretions they spread on a carcass are antibacterial and slow down decomposition. Trumbo and his colleagues wondered whether they also prevent rivals from picking up the scent. To find out, they collected the gases wafted off dead hairless mice preserved by a kind of burying beetle that is found in forests across North America. The researchers then compared the gases to those untouched carcasses. The beetle prepped ones gave off much less of an onion-smelling compound that usually attracted burying beetles to fresh remains. They also discovered an increase in other gases from decay that's known to deter other insects that feed on dead animals. Next, they dropped off the dead mice in a Connecticut forest. They found the beetles' rivals more likely to discover the ones covered in goop. Goop, there it is. Goop. That's interesting about the beetles, huh? So the beetles, how they eat. They'll find a
Are
carcass.
they insects?
Yeah, they're like that big. They find these beetles, burying beetles, they find a carcass. They take the carcass and they bury it until it starts to decompose. And then when it decomposes enough, they unbury it. They pick off all the feathers or the fur, and then they roll up the corpse in a ball. And then they put it in like goop and they feed it to their young.
Oh, beetle stuff.
Uh-huh. A certain kind of beetle does that. That's kind of creepy, isn't it? Ew. I wouldn't want to be stuck in that beetle's sights. Ugh. Seriously. That is no fun whatsoever. Let's see what else we got. Christmas tree. Let's see what else we got. We're going to do news today in history. Again, today is Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. We're going to go back in time to January 19th, 1809. Whew. So January 19th, 1809. Okay. Author, poet, and critic Edgar Allan Poe was born in Boston. So Edgar Allan Poe was born on January 19th, 1809. Wows. January 19th, 1937. Millionaire Howard Hughes set a transcontinental air record by flying his monoplane from Los Angeles to Newark, New Jersey in 7 hours, 28 minutes, and 25 seconds. So he flew from LA to New Jersey in 7 hours. And today you could do that. If you do that in a charter plane, you could do it in about 3.5 hours. Commercial plane, it's about 4 hours, 4.5. From LA to Newark, New Jersey. Almost 5 hours. It's a long flight, huh? Imagine going from San Francisco to Japan or San Francisco to Australia. That's about almost 2-day flight. You're in the air for like 21 hours or something like that. You're on one plane for 21 hours landing. How crazy is that? And you know, it's winter time right here. In Australia right now, it's actually summertime because they're in the southern hemisphere. And the southern hemisphere is always the opposite season as us. So right now, they're in summer, we're in winter. When we're in summer, they're in winter. So their Christmases are really hot. Like it's like 100 degrees when it's Christmas there. When it's the winter time for them, it's like, 65, 70. What were you about to say, Annie?
Does it get cold? out there with them like it is?
Yeah, it gets cold. All right. January 19th, 1955. A presidential news conference was filmed for television and newsreels for the first time with the permission of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. So it was the first time that a president was ever broadcast on television, filmed for television. First time ever.
Eisenhower was the president. Yes.
What's that?
He was the president of the United States.
Yep. He was also a war hero. This, January 19th, 1981. The United States and Iran signed an accord paving the way for the release of 52 American-held hostages for more than 14 months. Y'all remember that? The Iranian hostage crisis?
What year?
1981. Started in 1980. Where you had all these American diplomat workers at the American embassy in Tehran, in Iran, and it was right at the beginning of the revolution in Iran, and all these people broke in to the American embassy and took all the workers hostage for 14 months. 14 months they took them hostage for.
There's nothing the United States could do.
Nope.
It's supposed to be bad.
For 14 months, they were in jail basically, just because they were American and worked for the American government.
That's cold.
Iran used to be Iran used to be an open place before crazy people went in there and started ruling. It used to be an open place where you could go travel there. I've heard it's a beautiful place to travel. Same thing with Syria. Syria was a beautiful place to travel. Now the biggest city in Syria is all rubble. They bombed it'd be like bombing San Francisco and having it all flattened to the ground. That's what parts of Syria look like. It's sad.
What language do they speak? Syria.
Persian.
Persian.
Yes. So yeah.
That's sad.
So what we're going to do is we're going to finish up with news of the weird. In news of the weird. This one's called Fines Unleashed. Like I'm going to fine you a whole bunch of money. You got it, okay? A couple in Sherbrooke, Quebec were each fined $1,500 on January 9th when police spotted the pair walking outside about an hour after the city's 8 p.m. curfew with the husband wearing a leash. CTV News reported the city's curfew allows for dog walking after 8 p.m., but police rejected the couple's claim they were following the rules. It was the first weekend under the new province-wide restrictions imposed by Premier Francois Legault, and officers throughout the Quebec handed out more than 7,500 tickets. So these people they weren't allowed to be out past 8 o'clock unless you're walking a dog. So the wife had the husband on a leash. And the cops came up and said, "What are you doing?" Like, "I'm walking my dog." The cops didn't buy it, gave him a ticket for being out after curfew. Isn't that funny? In Canada. She goes, "I'm walking my dog." And she's got her husband on the leash with a leash around his neck.
Oh, she must have put a costume or something on.
That's classic, right?
She put her belt around his ankle.
No, she didn't do that.
He's falling down there. They got people that's really. Yes, indeed. I should put that on.
All right. Thank you again for joining me. My name is Diallo. This is Current Events. Once again, thank you. I will see you next time
Thank you.
on this beautiful day. Have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Be kind. Rewind.
Thank you. Very good. Very good.
Go to the bathroom if you need to.